Cool. Looks like we are ready to go. What is going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of the Narik Chase channel. I'm your boy Narik Chase, and we're going to be coming at you with another streamlined podcast. Now, I know it's been a while since we've been putting videos up. The holidays, COVID, working, two jobs, and a lot of other things that's been going on the website, the music. There's just the book that I've been working on. So, just a lot that has been going on, and of course a lot going on. Some things got to pull back on to make sure these other things excel, but that's okay. I decided, and I've been wanting to do this video for a long time. And this video is going to be, I guess, just the topic of female-led comic book movies. Not specifically superhero ones, but we're mainly going to be talking about those. But there are some that I do have in the list that are actually I wanted to address as well, and basically just things that just a discussion about where we are with female-led comic book movies, what makes them good, what makes them bad, what are the good ones, what are the bad ones, just basically my thoughts about that. And if you're interested in hearing this, just go ahead, go get ready to go cook you some sushi or something, cook you some noodles or whatever, and just listen to me talk about what I'm thinking about. Now, for those who haven't been to the channel, thank you guys for watching the video, listen to the video. Be sure to hit that like, share, subscribe, and that notification bell to get more of what we got coming out, which we are going to be doing more. But for those who don't know, we do have a website, narikchase.com, and a lot of our content is on there as well, especially stuff that we stream on here. So we're getting it all over there. There's just a lot out there that we do have so far. But without further ado, let's go ahead and just talk about the female-led comic book movies. Now, I was trying to wait till a Black Widow came out, so that way I can at least get a couple of more movies, a movie or two from Marvel, because as we all know, Marvel has done two female-led comic book movies. One being Elektra, I believe they came out in 2005, and of course there was Captain Marvel that came out in 2019. But I was hoping to get the Black Widow on there, but I didn't want to wait because no one knows when that's actually going to come out, because it might get pushed back again. But having said that, yes, I've went back and I watched all, and this not only is towards just the movies either. This is also going to include television shows as well. But just to give my thoughts on it. Now, with the whole craze of comic book movies that have come out, majority of them are male-led movies with a lot of prominent female characters to be in these movies. Now, is that saying that we can't have female-led comic book movies that are actually good? Now, for those people who say that we don't have any female-led comic book movies, before the explosion of comic book movies nowadays, they are sadly mistaken. In the 80s, you started to see more of those, actually, the first comic book-led, female-led movies, these movies led by women. We had movies such as Sheena that came out in 1984, Barbarella, which I'm not sure if they came out in the 70s or the 80s. Haven't seen the movie, but I've seen things on it, so don't quote me on that. One of my favorites is Red Sonja. It's cheesy. It's a Conan ripoff, but I actually enjoy the movie for what it is. And, of course, Supergirl, which we don't want to talk about that movie, but we are going to talk about it in this. And ever since then, though, we've had comic book-led female superhero movies come out more, as well as television shows. Who could forget Wonder Woman and how prominent a character she has made, that portrayal of the character that pretty much helped put her character on the map as far as DC goes. Much like the Incredible Hulk series helped flesh out the Hulk as well. So, like I said, I know a lot of people, especially feminists nowadays, are pushing for the fact that we haven't had a lot, but we actually have had quite a few comic book-led movies that were led by a female protagonist, and television shows as well. Now, some of my favorites I can honestly say that are actually out there. I got my notes and stuff, so if you see me looking down, that's what I'm looking at. One of the biggest, if not the biggest, most successful one to ever come out is probably Wonder Woman. Now, Captain Marvel did come out and it had a lot of success, But as when it comes to ratings wise, Wonder Woman takes the edge. Now, for those who haven't seen my Wonder Woman versus Captain Marvel movie comparison, y'all should check. I'm gonna try to leave them in the links in the description bar, so you can go ahead and check out what I thought about those. But there's a lot of things that Wonder Woman capitalized that Captain Marvel didn't. And a lot of these female-led comic book movies tend to kind of fall in where um, Captain Marvel kind of tended to do as well. A lot of it does have to do with feminism. I'm not so against feminism that I can't watch and enjoy a movie of a character that's a woman that is trying to prove herself, and in doing so, inspire other women and specifically younger women as well, to be inspired to empower themselves. Unfortunately, a lot of times the path that they take to this often comes with over masculinity, man hating, and over sexualization of the characters, which for the most part does not do anything for them. It doesn't make them likable. It doesn't make them relatable. It doesn't give them any kind of depth. And a lot of times when people design these types of things, develop these types of things, they lean on that to feel like we can actually sympathize and actually like this character because of those things. Let me take you to the movie Barbed Wire. Now, I've heard of Barbed Wire, and a while ago I did see a little bit of the film, and I knew Pamela Anderson was in the movie, and to be honest with you, she's fucking gorgeous. The woman's sexy as hell in this movie. And the movie does a good job of showcasing that. And I think that that's a problem because it did do the movie a bit of a disservice. For the most part, I did think the movie was actually okay. I don't think it was a terrible movie at all. It had a decent story. It had an interesting world. There was a lot of stuff going on. There were interesting characters. I did like the Barbed Wire character herself, but unfortunately, what depth that could have been explored a bit more into a character, which there is some there, is kind of muddled because of the over sexualization of the characters. And sometimes it actually kind of goes at odds with the way the world is. The world is gritty. There's damn near war. People dying. There's gangs. There's violence and everything. And then you have this woman that's just in a just sexy outfit all the time. And sometimes it works in the film, but sometimes it doesn't. Especially given the type of character she is. Yes, she's a sexy character, and I like the fact that they do portray that. But they also should have stuck out a bit more about her as a person. Now, that's not to say that she's not badass. She doesn't have depth. I actually like the character. I actually sympathize with the character. I actually want to see more of the character. But I think the movie did kind of lean a little bit too more over the sexualization of her character. Now, that's not to say that characters can't be sexy. Yes, we can have sexy characters, but the sexiness, the beauty, the physical appeal of the characters shouldn't be the thing that writers, directors lead with. Again, Wonder Woman is the biggest example of this because as one of the most prominent female characters in comics, she is beautiful. She's fine as hell. She's a dime piece, whatever these kids say nowadays. But beneath that, we actually see depth of character. We actually see strength of will. We actually see a good spirit, and that clearly shines. It does a great job in the movie, the first movie, and even in Wonder Woman 1984. Again, another one of these movies that I was trying to wait for before I did this video. You definitely see that a little bit more, especially with the character growth that we do see in this film. But I think when it comes to that, I think this is where Captain Marvel kind of takes a different approach to it, whereas Barbed Wire seemed to focus a little bit more on the over-sexualization of the character. I do think that Captain Marvel kind of does lean more to the over-masculine woman that has no depth to a character because physical strength is what she exudes, and that physical strength is pretty much what you would consider. It's the misperception of strong. Yes, it's cool to see her fly, destroy ships and stuff, and shoot these energy blasts and kick people's ass. But in doing so, there's no sense of danger. in doing so, we have little sense of her motivations or actual purpose, and we have really no depth of her character. We do see some in her relationships with Nick Fury, with her homegirl, especially her homegirl's daughter, which I thought did a better job of actually freshening out a little bit more. But without those elements, truly, who is Captain Marvel? We really don't know. We don't know what she likes to do. We don't know her hobbies. She just pretty much is just tough girl, and unfortunately, that tough girl act. Even most people, most women don't even like that. You want characters that are actually likable. Again, I like the tough girl act that Barbed Wire has, but you see vulnerability in her character. You see depth of her character. There's tragedy in her life, but you see she has good relationships with other people, and you see how that actually helps flesh her character out as well. Whereas in Captain Marvel, she pretty much didn't change the entire film. So from the moment you start watching the movie to the moment that the end of the movie, you really don't feel much for it. Even when you have this special moment where you find out a bit about what actually happened in the past, where you want to feel sorry for her character, but unfortunately, because of her attitude and personality, it makes it very hard for her. Now, there's another character that I can actually say that did the same thing. I could not stand her character. I enjoyed the series. I loved all the supporting characters. I loved just the story, the setup, everything. But I could not stand her. And that's in the Van Helsing series, which is loosely based off the Van Helsing series from Xenoscope. And in this one, I can't remember her name now. What is her name? It's kind of embarrassing. I'm going to keep talking. One of the problems that I have with this series is the main protagonist. I don't like her. I feel like Vanessa Van Helsing. That's her name, Vanessa Van Helsing. That's good. I didn't know that about Harker, but okay. But my problem mainly with the Van Helsing series is the main protagonist, because I feel that her character is just too strong. She has no depth to her. She's not likable. She's not wrong. She doesn't make bad decisions. She can't be beat. She's pretty much perfect. Now, for the setup of the show, there's a lot to that actually goes into her character that makes her, okay, pretty kick-ass when she's fighting vampires, even fighting other people. Okay, you kind of like that. You like the mystique surrounding her character, and how that mystique and how her character actually aligns with the overall story of the show, which does give the show a lot of good appeal to me. But unfortunately, when you have a lead character that's just so unlikable, when she's wrong, she won't admit it. When other people are right, she won't admit it. When she's in a fight, there's no sense of tension. She's not even trained in this show to know how to fight. And then from the back, she's kicking ass. So where's the development curve there? There isn't really any. And I feel like if they took her character out of the show and just left everything else and left all the other characters and plot going, I think the show still would be much better for it, because you have characters that you can root for and you want to see them get out these situations. You want to see them survive. You want to see their relationships thrive, and it makes for a very compelling story. But again, Vanessa Van Helsing is one of those characters that's on the level with Captain Marvel, where she's overly masculine, never wrong, doesn't show emotion. Now, there's one sequence that does of events that happens in the show, and when this tragedy does happen to the character, you don't care, because she's so strong. She shows no vulnerability, and even after this tragedy happens, still doesn't show any vulnerability. That's not a very human-like quality. You have to cry at some point, especially going through the things that you're going through. There is some point where you're going to be feeling torn down, worn out, when you're going to feel like you just want to cry, you want to scream, you want to throw a fit, because these things have happened to you. Unfortunately, the 2 seasons I've seen of this character, I have not seen not one moment. And I kind of feel like I don't want to spoil it, but I think if I did say it, you put a little bit more emphasis to what what I'm actually going towards. But I guess I guess this is a spoiler for those who haven't seen the Van Helsing television show. The first season revolves around her waking up after being in a coma. And after she wakes up, it's like 28 days later, the world is with the shit. Vampires are sitting here wiping out humanity. There's civil war, scavengers. It's basically the Walking Dead, the vampire version of Walking Dead. And I like that. It's really good. It's really interesting. It's fantastic. It's compelling. And the setting is just thumbs up. Mwah. But in the first season, when she wakes up from this coma, she sets out to try to find her daughter. Great storyline. Unfortunately, from the moment she wakes up, she's kicking vampire ass. There's no explanation as to how, when they actually do delve more into her character and her backstory, there's no sense or any information given about her having any kind of form of training. No, she wasn't a police officer. She wasn't a martial arts instructor. It's happening. And she literally just woke up. How in the hell is you killing vampires? You literally just woke up. That's the first thing she did. She kicked like 3 vampires' ass when she woke up. I'm like, how? So, and throughout the episode, you see that she doesn't take criticism. When somebody says something that's right or smart, she will definitely go against it, even if it makes sense. Her decisions cost people lives, and she has no regret for it whatsoever. Yeah, okay. That's a good, strong character, all right. And again, when it comes to learning a lesson, some kind of a moral lesson in the situation, she still doesn't learn it. And that makes me just hate her character so much. Now, having said that, let's get on to what I meant by the lack of vulnerability to her character. She manages to find her daughter. And unfortunately, she finds out her daughter has been transformed into a vampire. Now, that is a pretty interesting dilemma in itself, because you're trying to, should you kill your own daughter because she's a vampire? And to have her live, she's going to have to take the lives of other people. Interesting scenario. Unfortunately, they didn't go that route with it completely. They started to. And one of the things about Van Helsing is she's part vampire, but she has the ability to bite vampires and turn them human. Thumbs up. That's a fantastic idea. Have not seen it before. Awesome. And unfortunately, when she tries to do it to her daughter, it leads to her daughter's death. Her daughter dies. Now, what I was saying was there's no moment where she's fallen. Because after her daughter dies, again, I didn't give a shit because all the people that she got killed leading up to her daughter, and it wasn't like she got them killed because they all decided to help her get a daughter. It's because she led these people to their deaths, and she did not care about how this affected the other characters. She didn't care about nothing else. And even after her daughter dies, does she sit down and mourn and grieve? No. They swap out the emotional aspect of her character for strength, and all she does is just hunt vampires and kick ass all the time. Now you could say, hey, that's just how she deals with it. But the problem is she's dealt with the situation like that all the series. Now, going back to Black Widow, if you see Black Widow in the MCU, she's kick-ass. She does stuff like that. But there are moments throughout the MCU, there's regret, there's sadness, there's sorrow, there's hopelessness. You get to see that range in her character, which makes her that much more compelling character because you deal with those emotions. And unfortunately, Vanessa Van Helsing is probably one of the worst characters that I've ever seen, next to Captain Marvel in the MCU, unfortunately, which sucks because I actually like Brie Larson. But now, to make up for this, I will say, despite Marvel's attempts at making a Captain Marvel, which again didn't work out too well in my opinion, I actually can say I like their version of Elektra, especially in the movie. Now, why does this movie fall? Now, the fact that Elektra, for one thing, is white. which I'm not really tripping about, but because I would say that in the earlier versions of the comics, she's white. But in the more recent incarnations of the character, she appears more Eastern, Middle Eastern, Asian in a certain way, which is why I like Elodie Young's performance as the character in the Defenders, because she's absolutely badass and she just fits the role. But not a knock against Jennifer Gardner. Now, having said that, why was her movie? Did her movie suck? I think the Elektra sucked because I think they felt like they dipped too much into the emotional aspect of the character. Yes, she's this killer assassin and she's doing all this really badass stuff, but how do we ground this character? I feel like the only way they felt like they could ground the character is to introduce emotional baggage. Now, there's a father and there's a daughter in the film. She's tasked with assassinating the father and probably the daughter too. I can't remember. But she met them, I believe, before the assassination contract popped up. So she decided to not do it. And that's not really a bad way to go. Unfortunately, really don't care about the guy. And I sure as hell didn't care about the girl. Now, I feel like the movie would have worked a bit better if she had assassinated the man and his daughter, and then possibly found out later on that the father was actually a part of something big that would have helped a village of people, helped humanity, do something that was actually really good, and she kind of messed that up, or help kids, fight leukemia or something like that, and then have the emotional fallout come in after that. I felt like that would have worked out. I felt it worked out better. Those characters would have had strong connection to Elektra, and it would have given the story a bit more depth to make her look a little bit more into what's going on in her life as a character. I'm mad that my boy Daredevil didn't make a cameo in this movie or something, but I understand because it wouldn't make no sense for him to be there. But I did like Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck on screen. I thought they had a really good chemistry. But also, going back to it, another one of the aspects that I do feel that they did good was the fact that they didn't focus on the feminism in the film. She's a female assassin. Strike that. She's an assassin, and that's pretty much it. Really, the only people that make an issue of her being a female is pretty much the villains. And the villains, for the most part in this movie, just fucking suck. They suck. The fights suck. And that's another problem I'm starting to see in a lot of these comic book these types of movies that we're talking about, is the fights are just horrible. Now, going back to Wonder Woman, the fights were just badass. And it wasn't, and then Wonder Woman, she's not fighting women, she's fighting dudes, but she's kicking ass. It's very intense, it's very badass. Even if you turn and look at Wonder Woman 1984, the fight sequences aren't bad. They're actually they're pretty cool. They're pretty cool, especially given in the context what was going on in the film. I will say that the Wonder Woman and the cheetah fight at the end, I was disappointed. I really was disappointed in that. But I kind of understood what they were going for in the film. Now, the best movie I can actually admit to say has some of the most badass fight sequences in it is Atomic Blonde. When you are going to make a movie about a woman that's taking on the man, taking on a supervillain, taking on a group or something like that, the fights need to be just fucking on point. Atomic Blonde nailed it. If you like movies like freaking John Wick, where the fight sequences or The Raid, where the fight sequences are intense, where there is blood, where people are getting their ass kicked, where, you know what I'm saying, where it's just straight up brutal and it's realistic. And this movie has it. And I'm not saying that all of these movies women should get their ass kicked like that, but I'm like, if you're fighting these big burly dudes and everything, and you're not taking licks and you're not getting thrown around and stuff, the shit's don't look good. I can actually say Black Widow from the MCU kind of gets away with this because of the context of the movies. Yeah, she's an assassin, and then when you watch the her and her fight sequences, they're borderline realistic with some of the things that she does. Borderline, but it's not like she just punches a guy and the guy knocked out. Though I've seen her do it once and it didn't make sense. Just like even in the Captain America Civil War, she's fighting these superpowered beings, or if in fact in the other movies she's fighting superpowered beings. It doesn't make sense for her to be able to kind of physically keep up with them. But going back to Atomic Blonde, if you want to see brutality but see a woman kicking guys' ass, but she's taking her lumps in the process, that movie has some of the best fight sequences concerning a woman versus multiple men, and it looks realistic. It's not cheesy. It's well choreographed. It's brutal. It's intense. Great, just on point. And it's hard to actually go back and it's hard to kind of figure out another movie where that is the case. Now look at Birds of Prey that actually came out last 2020. That movie, when it came to the fight sequences, is a bit of a mixed bag. Because one of my favorite parts in the film is this fight between Harley Quinn and these thugs that are in this police station trying to get this girl. And it's actually a pretty decent fight. She does take a couple of lumps here and there, but the thing that makes it stand out is the fact that she's using the bat, and she's using the bat in very creative ways. So that makes a very interesting and pretty cool fight sequence. There's another fight sequence as well where these prisoners get out of these cells, their cells, and she's fighting them. And I believe that the sprinkler system was going off. So that cinematic wise looked pretty cool. I will say that I felt like, again, it felt a little bit too choreographed because she's not taking any licks, but they made up for it later on in the fight with her using the bat, which I will say, some of the most creative ways to use a bat in a fight. But when it comes to the ending sequence, again, it felt choreographed, it felt lazy, it felt like they didn't, as far as the women characters go, they didn't want to actually do really physical work. You got all of these women that just sit here, maybe throw a punch here, knock this dude out, throw a kick here, knock this dude out. But I'm like, it shouldn't have been like that. It should have been a bit of combos. It should have been more tactical. And it's not like they hit the dude in the temple or anything like that. Have you ever seen a movie where somebody small punches somebody in the chest and then knocks them out? Like when you watch those Asian movies and the women would do like this and pop the dude in the chest and the dude will fall over and he's spitting out blood and stuff. It feels almost like they're trying to do that. And at least when they do that in those types of movies, you could say it's the martial arts style, pressure points, chi, focus, your karma and into the blow or something like that. But honestly, it doesn't work in more of these types of movies. And Birds of Prey is a prime example of that. The fight sequences, especially that fight sequence at the end, was just atrocious. I was pissed off watching it, and it just made me upset. Now, let's go down the list of what is strength. When we watch movies like this, even with male superhero, what is strength? Strength is actually strength of character, in my opinion. And a lot of people will say that too. Strength of character, personality, decision making, choices, willpower. Those things make an interesting character and make a character strong. Now let's look at Captain America. Though I'm not trying to delve more to the male side of things. Look at Captain America. Captain America is a super soldier. He's faster than most people. He's stronger than most people. He's more capable than most people. But what makes him an interesting character? His strength of his personality, his willpower. When the chips are down, he doesn't give up. He's really strong with his beliefs. He believes in freedom. He'll fight for the people and fight for the cause to the bitter end. Hell, the moment where you see him going up against Thanos is basically godlike creature compared to him. He actually went up against him. Got knocked the hell out in one blow, but it was actually a pretty cool sequence. But like stuff like that makes for a very compelling character, especially as the leader. Goes out his way to protect those that he cares about and will give his life for them. That makes it for a very strong character. Now, when we compare that to more of these comic book, the female movies, do we have that equivalent? Now, you could say Wonder Woman. Okay, I really enjoy her character. Another character who I really enjoyed her series, television series, would be Olivia Moore from the iZombie series. She's very likable. She's very diverse. She's well rounded. She's a very strong character. Will just through her willpower, her words, her connections, her backstory, not backstory, but just good backstory. But you know what I'm saying, her decisions and how she is afflicted with this zombieism, but she's not going out trying to prove herself to other people. Yes, she's a female character, but you don't like her being a female character doesn't really do anything that hurts the show. There is no feministic type thing that's going on into it. She's just a really good, interesting character, especially given some of the situations she finds herself in. So that's a really good character. That's a strong character in my opinion. Even in Alita Battle Angel, and I'm delving into manga a bit too, but usually when I say comic books, I'm including them too. Now there is two movies that I wanted to see that I wanted to add to this too, and it was Lady Snowbird because that was based off of manga as well, but couldn't freaking find them online, and I hadn't seen them in the store, so maybe when I make another video with this or something for like Breaker Bakes, I'll actually be able to bring that. Or when I do the series, the movie series versus videos, then I have it by then. But even with Alita Battle Angel, she was actually a pretty strong character. I do hate the fact that there wasn't really a developing arc to her character. And yes, she kicked a whole lot of ass, but I actually like the character's personality. I like the curiosity behind her. I like the pool of justice. Not the pool of justice. I want to say I want the compulsion to do good. I really enjoyed that about her character. I like the fact that in the movie she does take her lumps, but she keeps going. You know, I like the fact that she actually does learn and develop as a person throughout the course of the movie. So that as a prime example of strength in my opinion. Again, let's go back to Captain Marvel. Doesn't develop at all throughout the entire movie. Yes, she learns how to fly, but that's about it. Going back to Vanessa Van Helsing, doesn't develop as a character. She's from the moment you see her, the moment you see this character, she doesn't develop at all. Now, there is one character that I did want to highlight because I really enjoyed her series, and that is Jessica Jones. Now, for those who don't know who Jessica Jones is, she's from the Marvel side of things. Former superhero. She's basically a private eye. And in the MCU version of the character, she's dealing with abuse issues. She's dealing with PTSD. She abuses not drugs. She drinks a lot, and she's basically an asshole. But what makes her such a strong character is not the fact that she has superpowers and she can fly and leap and has super strength and increased durability and increased healing. It's the fact that she has a moral code to her character. Now, throughout the 3 seasons of Jessica Jones, which that was a fucking crime to end it on the 3rd season, should be ended on like the 10th season. But Marvel, y'all some assholes for that, for real. But what makes her such a good character is her code. Throughout this series, there are events and characters that pop up in her life that she initially doesn't really want to deal with. But her moral code helps her to pursue those situations, and in doing so, either save the lives of those said people or come into a mystery or some a type of mystery in which she is capable of solving it. One of those is when one of the guys in the Defenders, it was a dude, I believe he came up, Maybe I'm getting my stories mixed up, but that's that train of thought is what led her to the Defenders. Basically, just her moral sense, and despite the fact that she's depressed all the time, she drinks all the time. Money is an issue. She's always getting into trouble. She has a strong moral code, and I like that about her character. There, even in the third season, the first two seasons, she's just kicking ass, and even in the third season, you see vulnerability to her character physically, and that affects her character even more. And I like that because she grows from that. She gains knowledge from that, and she goes out her way to utilize. She doesn't learn in one episode and then forget it the next. It's all about growth of character, and I really appreciate that. So when we talk about strength, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about how sexy a woman is. We're not talking about how kick-ass she is. We're not talking about how strong her powers are. We're talking about just her character. So, how does another point that I wanted to throw into going off of the looks and stuff? How does sexual appeal fit in? Now, obviously, if you have a woman that's a secret agent that's actually kicking these dudes' ass, you want her to be fit because it makes sense for her to be fit. Same way a dude would be fit too if he's doing this. Now, I'm not watching James Bond and he's sitting here running up scaffolds and jumping off and doing parkour and stuff. He's not fat. The man's pretty fit. And nobody complains about the guy being fit because he's actually doing stuff that you need to be fit to do. I couldn't do it. In fact, I wouldn't even try to run up a scaffold, especially when it's moving. But that was a good ass stunt. Y'all need to watch Casino Royale. That beginning sequence was insane. One of the best of the Bond series, to be honest. But I think when it makes sense for a character to be athletic, to be her figure, to be on point, it makes sense, then yes. Again, when we go back to Captain Marvel, it makes sense for her to be physically on point. I was watching Painkiller Jane. She was in the military, so it makes sense for her. And like I said, all of these women are pretty much hot. They're all pretty much hot. But where their role is in the film, it makes sense. Again, Painkiller Jane was in the military. Makes sense. Atomic Blonde's a secret agent that's trained for like hand-to-hand combat. Makes sense. Going to Vampirella. She knows how to fight. I don't know. Vampirella, that movie was just something else. I don't know what to say about that. But Red Sonja, a warrior woman out in the wilderness. Makes sense. Again, Wonder Woman. Makes sense. Harley Quinn. Makes sense. Especially with all the acrobatic type stuff that she does throughout the film. Ghost in the Shell. Makes sense. Eon Flux. Makes sense. Elektra. Makes sense. Supergirl makes sense. Catwoman makes sense. So it makes sense for the women to be to be built, not built, to be fit. And then fit, most of the time, a woman would look sexy. Now, the problem is if that's what defines it. Again, barbed wire is a prime example of how sexiness kind of overtakes your character. But there's one other movie that did it much worse, but she looked really good doing it, and that was Catwoman with Halle Berry, Miss Patience, which is why they call her Patience and not Selena Kyle. I don't know. I would have liked her to have been just an actual Selena Kyle. And I was actually kind of trying to figure out, like, should I include this because she's not Selena Kyle, so technically she wouldn't be Catwoman. But I'm like, okay, Catwoman can be technically anybody, and I'm quite sure she's not the only Catwoman to ever have that utilize that name. So she's on the list. But it's more, and Barbed Wire, I liked it, and I like the fact they give her depth. And yes, they do focus on sexuality, but Catwoman did it worse. The whole movie is just Halle Berry just looking good. She was fine. She was fantastic in that movie. I couldn't tell you nothing about the movie. All I know is she's fine, she's sexy, and in almost every sequence that you see this woman in, she's in something that makes her look good. Or she just look good at wherever she's wearing. Especially the whole thing with her in the cat outfit. They did too much of that. It was to the point that it was distracting. So when we look at something like that, that's kind of the problem. Now, let's take a look at Eon Flux. Now, Charlize Theron is just beautiful, and for those who don't know, Charlize Theron plays Eon Flux, and she plays, I forgot the lady's name in Atomic Blonde. She plays both of those movies. So, but Eon Flux wears a bodysuit, but it makes sense for her to wear a bodysuit. Again, she's fit too. Makes sense because she's like this special secret agent type character. So, sexiness to a point is pretty cool. Wait, I take this back. Now, the DC Showcase Catwoman came out in 2011, which I did include this because I did really enjoy it. And that one, I liked Catwoman because she was sexy. Sexy as hell. That's probably one of the sexiest, if not the sexiest version of Catwoman to ever come out. But one thing I liked about it is she used that sexuality to help get over on people. And I like that. She wasn't defined by it, but she used it. That part where she's doing that stripper pole dance that was on point. Y'all need to. I might watch that after this. You know what I'm saying? Because I think it's good. A woman can be sexy, and I think for roles like this is good because if she uses that sexiness to do things, I think that actually works. Now, again, I would have liked to have seen a bit of that from Catwoman. I would have liked to see a bit of that from Barbed Wire. Use her feminine wiles to get what you want, get information or something like that. But it wasn't really utilized in that way. But the DC Showcase, Catwoman did a fantastic job of it. So that's probably the best best film version of the character. But on to the next. But I want to go back and kind of talk about Jessica Jones in that respect because I think Christian Ritter is just a sexy woman. I think she, does a good job with the Jessica Jones character. But Jessica Jones does not rely on nothing physical to do. Well, not really. One thing I like about the Jessica Jones character, I can't say, she uses her wits. She's smart. She's incredibly powerful. She's a good-looking woman, but I like the fact that she doesn't use her looks. I like that she uses her intellect when doing personal investigations, questioning people, trying to figure out what's going on, doing research. She's just very smart, and I really enjoy that about her character. I know we talked about this. How realistic should the action be? The action needs to be realistic because and I'm not saying that they can't have over the top stuff. I mean, if you look at The Matrix, movies like The Matrix, you can have fight scenes where you get hit somebody and they go flying across the room, but it has to make sense as to how to do it. Again, when we have like Ghost in the Shell is one of the prime examples I would like to say. During the action sequences with Scarlett Johansson's character Major, well done. It's actually pretty good. I could say that Scarlett Johansson is pretty decent when it comes to physical stuff in some of the action sequences. Yes, I could say something like the stunt double did some of the stuff, but I think it works pretty well. Alita Battle Angel action sequences are just ripped. They are on point. They are badass. If you want to see some badass, like crazy stunts, flying through the air, stuff like that, I could say Alita Battle Angel definitely does a really good job with that. Captain Marvel, the fights are decent, the action's decent, but there's no mounting tension because she's basically a god. So it's like, okay, how can you take on a god? I'm still pissed off that there was no fight between her and Ronan and Accuser because Ronan was supposed to have a bigger role in this movie, and I didn't see that. All I seen him was just telling people he's gonna fly somewhere and blow some shit up. Got one of his shit blown up and then left. That made me mad. So I wanted to see more action from that. Catwoman, the action sequences just were not on point at all. Barbed Wire, I did like the bit of action that we had at the ending of the movie. It worked out really well for me. Elektra, the action sucked. To try to be all artsy and stuff, but it just sucks. She's literally fighting these five people. Some lady that poisons people. Some really big dude. Some swordsman. a guy that uses tattoos, and I forgot what the other. I think it was another loser, but I don't know what it is, what that loser could do. But I'm like, there was like no real actual fight. I could say there was more, even in Captain Marvel when she's fighting her old team. That sequence was actually better than Elektra fighting these 4 or 5 losers. You know what I'm saying? So I could actually give Captain Marvel that. Wonder Woman, on point, good. Wonder Woman 1984. Oh, they're enjoyable. I wish there was more. A lot of people complain about that movie not having enough action. It was a story based movie. Shut the fuck up. Painkiller Jane, not enough action. Not enough. I got to a point where I actually liked the character. I wanted to see what they were going to go. She's supposed to be able to just regenerate from any kind of wounds and stuff. Didn't really get that. I was disappointed with that. Birds of Prey, disappointed with it. Whiteout, I actually liked that movie. I thought Kate Beckinsale did a good job in that movie. It was that's one of the things I like about that movie is because it was so grounded in realism with her being I don't want to say a woman. I want to say a person in that type of situation, but I guess you could say a woman. She's like the only woman up here in Antarctica when all of this stuff is going down. And I'm not going to say it's because she's a woman. I guess I'd just say because she's a person. There's a killer up there trying to kill her. She's dealing with these ice storms, these whiteouts. If you go out there, you gone. You know what I'm saying? So I thought there was some pretty intense sequences in that one. But I think any movie that has action sequences, regardless of it's people with powers or just regular people, should have some good action sequences. And I can say Van Helsing, for as much as I can't stand Vanessa Van Helsing, the actions and fight sequences are actually pretty good. Winona Earp, I started watching a little bit of that, and I need to get back into watching that. I thought she kind of ran along the lines of kind of the too strong part. I mean, what is it with all these women that's claiming that they're strong? They all got leather jackets, jeans, tank top shirts, and boots. I don't get it, but I'm like, okay. But they be sexy as hell, though. But yeah, I can actually even Supergirl television show. Supergirl has really good action sequences, and I think they're done pretty well. That movie that was woo. That movie, the fights and stuff sucked. But and okay, moving on. Another one of the questions that I wrote down was, what roles do men play? And this is one of the biggest problems I've seen in a lot of these movies when it comes to men. A lot of the time, it's girls rule, boys drool. And I think that's a problem. Birds of Prey did that. Every male in that movie was just a sick son of a bitch that was either incompetent, an asshole, stupid, just on some more stuff, and that is a problem. Again, we'll go back to Wonder Woman because they did a good job of making the male characters interesting, making the male characters relevant, have a really good relationship with the main protagonist, and not be some sausage fest versus, this lady's honey bun, buns or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I didn't see that in Tank Girl. I didn't see that in Barbed Wire. I didn't really see that. Honestly, I didn't see that in Van Helsing that much either. I didn't see that in iZombie. I didn't see that in Jessica Jones, which I loved Jessica Jones for because everybody felt fleshed out. Everybody felt unique. Everybody felt, like they were supposed to be there. You know what I'm saying? They felt relevant. They felt, it had interesting stories, and they did a great job of actually fleshing out her character, despite how much of an asshole she could be a lot of the times. Even if you look at Steve Trevor in any of the Wonder Woman movies, Steve Trevor in all of the Wonder Woman movies is a relevant character. he's almost in every incarnation in these movies just as important as she is. And I really, really enjoyed that about her character. In Atomic Blonde, for as much again, in Atomic Blonde, this is a woman beating up dudes, and it ain't because the story says she beats them up. I mean, yeah, but she's getting her ass kicked. These dudes are tossing her against the wall, punching her in the face, and you're seeing her face just throwing her down, kicking her, choking her, like, you know what I'm saying? They're relevant, you know. Again, I don't know why Vampirella. I don't know what to say about that. I do not know what to say about that movie. Eon Flux. Let's say Flux. Oh, Flux. Sorry, Flux. Eon Flux. Don't know what to say about that. I don't know what to say about that. But I want to add something else to this conversation as well. I started watching the Harley Quinn television show. Good show. One of the things that I like about that show is it does touch on a bit of feminism, but it doesn't do it, I don't think, in an annoying way, because for as much as they are talking about feminism, because it's basically Harley Quinn trying to one-up the Joker, prove herself to the Joker, basically. Not because she wants to be with him, which part of her does, but because she wants to show him that she can outdo him. She can do her thing without him. And I like how she's not stepping on the other characters, because when she gets in situations, she cannot do these situations by herself. She doesn't show up the male characters in this. They actually play a pivotal role in the story as much as she do. Even her antagonistic characters. For as much of a dick as the Joker is, you know what I'm saying, he's actually competent. Batman, actually competent, you know what I'm saying? These other characters are actually competent. So we enjoy movies where men and women, I'm like I said, nothing against women empowerment or anything like that, but you don't need to step on the men to do it. Again, Birds of Prey did that. And I was very, very disappointed on them about that. This is a pretty important question that I was thinking of as well. Should a female hero or female character come up against a female antagonist? And I'm on the fence about that, because I think that is kind of feminine. I think that is kind of I don't know. I think it's kind of cool seeing, like, if you're going by like DC or Marvel, I think it would be kind of cool to start fleshing out more of the female villains. Because, in all honesty, one of the only female villains that I've seen that they've actually pushed, I thought was actually pretty badass, was Amanda Waller and Feora from Man of Steel. Them girls are just something else, which is how badass characters they are. But let's say if it came down, like with the Birds of Prey movie, if Harley Quinn, I feel like, honestly, Harley Quinn should have probably been the villain of the film, and then it was up to the other three chicks to kind of stop her from doing what she was going to do. I felt like that movie would have worked out a lot better if it went that route. The way they did Black Mass was just fucking criminal, and I like Ewan McGregor, but I think that's a bit of a slippery slope, because if we're going back to Catwoman with Halle Berry, they over-sexualized her character and Sharon Stone's character, and they made it all about this trivial stuff that was not interesting. Her motivations, to a certain extent, I was like, okay, that's pretty unique, that's pretty cool, but at the same time, they made it to be like this, like, it wasn't even like two women were fighting. It was like two high school girls were like fighting and stuff. So, and another, I'm trying to see if I could find another one where it was like a woman was like kind of the villain. And, in Red Sonja, Queen of Plagues, she ends up having to duel to fight her former best friend. Now, in that concept, in that context, it was really good because they were friends. There was a connection there, and it made for a deeper, richer rivalry between these two characters because of that attachment. Not because they were both women, but simply because they had an attachment to each other. They had history. So I think that actually is probably a better example of actually having, you know, her having to deal with basically a woman as her dark half, you know. So I think that's actually pretty cool too. Supergirl did almost the same thing that Catwoman did, but basically they did. It was like two high schoolers over here fighting over a boy, and I'm like, ugh. I mean, yes, the chick and I liked her because she was over the top. I like villain like that. She had a bit of personality, but I'm like a motivation. The reason why basically the whole Supergirl started fighting this woman anyway was because of her dude, and the dude had nothing to him. You know what I'm saying? So I think if we're gonna do women versus women, it has to have a bit of depth to it. Again, I talked about the final fight with Wonder Woman 1984. What I liked about the film is what led up to that, because Barbara and Diana, they're not really friends, but they're kind of on they kind of form kind of a bond throughout the course of the film as Barbara is getting stronger, more confident and stuff. You start to see that there's kind of a friction that starts to get between them two, especially concerning both of their stories, which I think actually are really good and have flesh out both the characters. And the rivalry that they kind of get into isn't built over how they look. I mean, it is, no, on Barbara's side of things, it is. But it's not not just because of that. It's because she lacks that and she wants that, which she ends up getting. But I think that they did. I think Wonder Woman 1984 did a good job of it, kind of illustrating that, of how this good person and how these two are kind of falling out. I don't know how to say it. Honestly, one of my biggest problems I had with the Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I actually like the film. I actually do. I bought it in DVD and everything. Is Electro when he turns bad. Electro turns bad almost instantly. There's no build up to it. There's no fallout from it in his life or anything like that. And I think Wonder Woman 1984 does a good job of actually not doing that. You see how she's becoming this more villainous character, and you see that kind of parallel to Diana's character, and I think that's actually pretty good. Again, it kind of goes to the Red Sonja Queen of Plagues, and I think that they do a good job of actually doing that. So I think that if it makes sense, roll with it. Don't do it simply because they're a woman. I mean, what was that movie that I watched a long time ago? Mercenaries. That's like a female ripoff version of The Expendables. In that movie, it was all about feminism because it was four chicks having to stop this woman, and this woman was extreme feminist. And you're like, you know what I'm saying? So, if we're gonna go with that, it has to make sense for that. Now, I do kind of like seeing the women have to deal with a male character, but I don't like the male characters that do too much. Again, Black Mask was one of the worst written male characters I've seen, and he was just And I'm not that guy that's like, okay, you being misogynistic or anything, but I'm like, come on, dude, you're just literally just saying this crap because you're basically saying because she's a woman, you're gonna do this. I'm like, come on, you don't want that. Most good male villains wouldn't do that. And I like the male villains and the female heroines that kind of have, I don't want to say sexual attraction to each other, but they do have that chemistry with each other, and I think that makes for some really compelling rivalries as well. If you're gonna go with that, something like Batman and Catwoman a little bit. So. Do you have to have a female antagonist? No, but I think if we do have one, it has to have purpose behind the fact that of why she is. Again, Queen of Plagues, Red Sonja Queen of Plagues, they had history together. Wonder Woman 1984, they actually ended up forming a bit of a bond. But Catwoman, I mean, I get she was trying to stop this lady who was a villain, but at the same time, it just felt like two girls fighting, two little girls fighting. The same thing happening to Supergirl. Hell, even Jessica Jones in the third season, you find out that Trish is a villain. There's a bit of, and I like the rivalry between her because again, it's built up over the seasons. They have this bond together, and I feel like, having said that, now it does feel like the more the characters actually kind of have a bond with each other, the better it is. Even, and now I'm talking about it, Wonder Woman Bloodlines. She ends up having a rivalry with a girl that she end up growing up with, not growing up with, but spending a lot of time with her family. Even with Wonder Woman 2009, the animated one, she ends up having a bit of an issue with another one of the Amazons who betrayed them because they had history. So I'm not sure if it's because, I guess it's because they had a history, and it kind of forces something out of the main character. It kind of puts a certain emotional stakes on the line when it's somebody that you've known and they're doing these terrible things. And I will say Jessica Jones did a really good job of that as well. So, do they have to have should they be tied up with the female villain? Not necessarily, but I will say I would like to see more female villains, be brought out a bit more. And note, guys, I know I've been talking for about over an hour about this, but these are movies that are specifically with the female. Like yes, they have other characters, but they're specifically mainly following this female character. iZombie, there's a lot of characters in that, but it primarily focuses on Olivia Moore. So that's why I'm specifically talking about this and not delving into any other ones like that. But continuing on the conversation, how feminine should our female hero be? I believe a woman can be masculine, show masculine traits, but it's not bad to be feminine. Again, when you look at Wonder Woman, I just thought about something when we was talking about like sex appeal. If you look at Vampirella, that for those who don't know, that lady that plays Vampirella plays Katana from the original Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Trying not to be sidetracked, but I have to say this. And the outfit that she wears is just fucking ridiculous. I get in the comics, you're trying to show the flesh and everything, but there's no way in hell a person in real life is going to wear that shit. And she looked good wearing it, but it didn't make no sense. And I believe if you're going to be in a comic book movie and you're doing combat and you fighting and stuff, it makes sense to be more tactical. But how feminine should our female hero be? One of the things that I did like about Wonder Woman 1984 is that they did a great job of showing how feminine she is, but when it comes to fighting and stuff, she was just on point. There was no masculine energy about her character. She just went from feminine to fighter. And it wasn't, and even when you look at Wonder Woman in her entirety with her outfit on, you see feminine energy. It's feminine, but it's not like I'm a damsel in distress. Which for some reason, when we say feminine nowadays, people try to say you're weak and all that. Like, no, feminine is feminine. You know what I'm saying? That don't mean you can't be a fighter. Look at again Olivia Moore from iZombie. She's very feminine, but she's a really interesting, very strong, and a very just awesome and well written character. If we look at Red Sonja, she comes off a bit more masculine, but I like the fact that she has chemistry with Arnold Schwarzenegger's character. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like she's like, well, I don't like men. Although she did say the only man that she would be with is a man that could best her. But that ain't saying that I don't like men at all. I think men are trash. Again, really, the only movie where I had any issue okay, let me say this. Okay, again, Catwoman, even Barbed Wire. Let's talk about Barbed Wire. I know I said that they over-sexualized the character, but I think they did a good job of balancing her with her feminine energy and her being a fighter. A lot of times she's wearing dresses and stuff, but when it came down to her kicking ass and stuff, she pulled out the gun and started shooting. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think they did a bad job with her either when it comes to femininity. Now, if you look at Tank Girl's a prime example of a character that's tomboyish, I guess you can say, and she does somewhat come off as masculine, but she does. At least in the movie, you see her wear a dress, and she has a dress on her own volition. You know what I'm saying? Um, but I don't think, like with her, I don't think she's too masculine. Now, the one person I will say I think is a little bit too masculine, again, is Captain Marvel. She's just too masculine. I feel like even in like I don't believe a woman is masculine because of her haircut. Because I know a lot of people didn't like her haircut in Game, but I didn't mind it. But the one thing I didn't like was during the funeral for Tony Stark, she's like, I'm wearing a pantsuit, and I don't like pantsuits. I'm sorry, I just don't. Women wear pantsuits. Just I don't know why. I just don't look right most of the time. But even if you look at Scarlet Witch, even if you look at Black Widow, Black Widow even wears dresses and stuff. And she fucking is an assassin. She wears a bodysuit and she kills people and stuff for a living. And you tell me this woman can do all of this badass stuff and still walk around in a dress? And she wears pantsuits sometimes, but she mainly wears dresses when she's like the sequence where Black Panther's father ends up getting killed in that explosion. She was wearing a freaking dress. And I think not to say that a woman can't not wear dresses and stuff, but at the same time, you can still be badass and wear a dress. You can still be badass and show your feminism. Again, do I have to go down the list? I think I will. I like Supergirl from the show. Atomic Blonde. Wonder Woman. If you want to say Black Canary, hell, Harley Quinn, Eon Flux, Elektra, Barbara Tank Girl, Olivia Moore. And now, going back to characters like Winona Earp and Vanessa Van Helsing. Vanessa Van Helsing, I don't see, like, between those two characters, I guess you could say they're more masculine than they are. They are feminine, but they are masculine, I guess you could say, because Vanessa, in fact, yes, it was one episode where somehow she got sent back to the past through somebody's memories, and she was playing a different character. And she was bitching about the dress that she was wearing. I was like, why is it a point of contention? Like, I'm still not getting that. Why is that a point of contention? Why are you bitching about the dress? You know? And I'm like, I mean, I guess you just want, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like sometimes you have characters, women characters that are tomboyish or have more masculine traits. And it's a lot of times it does seem like when it is like that, they are trying to force out the feminine part of them, and a lot of times it kind of comes off as cringy, but at the same time, you know, I'm not like against it like that. I just don't like it if it's like it feels like it's just forcing out the feminine traits altogether. You know, and it just feels a lot of times when stuff like that happens, it just feels very just contrived. You know what I mean. But it's neither here nor there. You know what I mean. Well, I'm going to go ahead and before I end this, I want to go ahead and just talk about the 5 successful things that I think would work in every superhero female-led comic book movie. And that's not to say just superheroes It could be movies like I Kill Giants. It could be movies like Ghost World. It could be movies like Whiteout. You know, I think that also worked. Even Josie and the Pussycats. You know what I'm saying? And that was a bad movie. The girls are cute though. But this is what I'm going to have said. One, if you're going to have a female lead, have her be well rounded. We want to have an interesting character. She has strengths. She has weaknesses. She has things that she enjoys doing. She has things that she doesn't like doing. She's not perfect. She can admit when she's wrong. You know what I'm saying? She can feel pain. She can feel joy. We need well-rounded characters. We need characters that can be scared of stuff. We can have moments of elation. We have moments of vulnerability. We can have them liking male characters. If they like female characters, fine. But at least you can show that they have that about themselves and not just wooden planks, Captain Marvel. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop doing that. But I have to admit too that Harley Quinn in the Birds of Prey movie was just a complete dick, and it was kind of, she had her moments where I didn't even like her character, and I'll even go a bit further than to say this too in the Birds of Prey television series. Yeah, I didn't think I was going to bring that up. I felt like those characters were the same thing. I don't think they were rounded enough. I don't think they were interesting enough. I don't think they had really anything much going for them except just be women and just kick dudes' asses and stuff like that. But we want well-rounded characters. Olivia Moore is a great example of that. The woman from Atomic Blonde is a great example of that. The chick from Whiteout is a good example of that. I would even go out and say freaking Painkiller Jane was actually a well-rounded character. Hell, Tank Girl was a pretty interesting character. Barbed Wire was an interesting character. Alita Battle Angel was an interesting character. You know what I'm saying? So we just want well-rounded, interesting characters. That's all. Two, no man bashing. You can have a movie with a strong woman that can kick all kinds of ass, but you don't have to sit there and just be like, men fucking suck. Birds of Prey movie. You know, men can contribute just as much. The story just ain't about them. Even fucking Supergirl, this television series, and I'm sorry to say this, but it does. It sits there and it bashes on the male characters a fucking lot. Either the male characters are evil, they're stupid, they're incompetent, they're useless. Did you see what the hell they did to Superman in that series? Come on. From episode 1 to the cancellation, they just completely just fucking over a lot of these male characters. And that's the problem with the CW, but that's a discussion for a whole damn different video. But anyways, no man bashing. You got shows like Jessica Jones. The male characters are just as interesting as she is. Come on now. You know what I mean? You can actually have good male characters. Hell, even in the Red Sonja, Queen of Plagues, even in the Red Sonja, the male characters, she wasn't bashing on them. You know what I'm saying? They were actually interesting, and they actually contributed something to the overall story as well as a bit of something to the characters. So you can actually have a good movie without a movie about a woman and not bash on a man. Also, good action sequences. We've already talked about that. Fights got to be realistic. They got to be pretty cool. They got to be realistic. Because even if it's a male, if it's not realistic, you know, it's still gonna be bad. So realistic, it's gotta be pretty intense. It's gotta be on point. That's all I'm saying. Just action sequences gotta be on point. Also, again, a good villain. Gotta have really interesting villain characters. Elektra, the villain, sucked. Catwoman, the villain, sucked. Malcolm McDowell was freaking awesome in Tank Girl. He's probably one of my favorite villains that's popped up in the comic book movie. That man was just a fucking retard. Really enjoyed him in that movie. I didn't want to bring in Sailor Moon because I did write it down, but Sailor Moon, when it comes to characters like Queen Beryl, I actually liked her. She was, I mean, wasn't really much to a character, but she had a lot of great personality. She had a lot of really good lines, and she was just had presence, and I like characters like that. And she was very threatening as well. But going back towards like Eon Flux, they were in. If you're going towards Captain Marvel, the bad guys are in. Birds of Prey fucking sucked. Zaz and Black Mask were two big disappointments. Big disappointments at that. Supergirl out of the villains freaking sucked. Jessica Jones, they were actually pretty good. Birds of Prey, this television show freaking sucked. And what is this? Ooh, I can't believe I completely forgot this entire discussion. I forgot to bring up Batwoman. Batwoman was bad on nearly every front. I'm not just going to sit there and blame Ruby Rose for it. I'm not. But the main chick she just sucked. The character sucked. Most of the other characters. In fact, let's go take this. Let me know. In fact, let me rewind this real quick. I'm putting a pin there while I stop right there on my 5 points. But going back to what I was saying about female versus female. In Batwoman, her main antagonist is Alice. Alice is by far one of the most interesting characters that the DC CW universe has pretty much produced. She's menacing, she's interesting, has interesting story, has really good lines, does a lot of pretty cool stuff. And then the chick, not only that plays her as hot, she actually just gives this crazy zany feel to the character that makes her stand out. Pretty much the only character that has that type of energy in the entire show. And I like the rivalry again between these two characters. And I'm not saying that again it's because they're women, but it's the story that's between these two. Batwoman has to deal with Alice, who's a villain, and she wants to save her sister from herself and go through redeem her and everything. But at the same time, she can't. Alice wants Batwoman to actually kind of join her. So there's that pretty good confliction. And as much as I don't like the show, I like that. But I can't believe this whole time I'm talking, I ain't even think about Batwoman. Batwoman was like the prime example of everything that I've said that was bad. But going back to the 5, I said well-rounded female lead, no man bashing, good action sequences, good villain, and of course, healthy female empowerment. You can have a movie about a badass superhero, a woman superhero, and not push the empowerment. The fact that she's a badass superhero is the empowerment. And again, really the only movie on here that actually goes in the direction of showing female empowerment and touching on female power without being an asshole about it pretty much is Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 1984, regardless if you're looking at the men, if you're looking at the first movie or the second movie. And I think that both these movies are inspirational not only because of that, but because they're actually pretty good movies. Now, I know a lot of people didn't like Wonder Woman 1984, but I did. And I'm probably going to go sit back there and go watch it again because I enjoyed it that much. Yes, that movie had a lot of problems, but if Endgame could make $2 billion with all the freaking plot holes that was in that movie, then I ain't got nothing to say about this one. Anyways, that's pretty much everything that I wanted to say. Oh, I'm sorry. I totally forgot. I am going to go ahead and just say what my top 10 favorite, top 10 good ones, film and television, as well as the top 10 bad ones. But we'll start with the good ones first. Top 10 best women comic book led movies, female-led comic book movies and television. Jessica Jones, Harley Quinn, and guys, hold on one second. It's gonna be a train. Oh, cool. Sorry about that train. Staying right next to the train track. But anyways, let's go ahead and talk about my top 10 favorite film and TV. Jessica Jones, the Harley Quinn television series, iZombie, the DC Showcase Catwoman, Tank Girl, Guilty Pleasure, Wonder Woman, the 2017 film, Wonder Woman, the 2009 film, the Wonder Woman Bloodlines film, Atomic Blonde, and Red Sonja, Queen of Plagues. Those are my top 10 favorite ones. Not to say I didn't like the other ones, but those are my favorite, the top 10 ones. But the worst female-led comic book film and TV is thus far Supergirl movie, the Supergirl television show. It's still like I still watch it and it's still enjoyable in some aspects. But when I say worse, I mean like the fact that feminism and all that crap, Birds of Prey movie, Birds of Prey show, Vampirella, and that's just a bad movie. Catwoman, Elektra, Batwoman, and Captain Marvel. Now, I'm not saying that the top 10 didn't have problems, the best didn't have problems, and I'm not saying that the worst aren't watchable. But I'm just putting those in the category. But anyways, that is it. I'm going to post a bit more in depth and a bit more organized on my website, so you can check that out to see my more organized thoughts about this. I know there was a lot of movies and a lot of television that I kind of jumped around, but my overall thoughts, I hope that I was able to relay them to everyone. So for those who actually made it the whole 100 hour and 20 minutes, thumbs up to you guys. Most people don't even listen to it for 5, but that's okay. So anyways, I got my thoughts out there. But in the comment section below, guys, let me know what are your thoughts about this topic: female-led comic book movies, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think that's what I call this, and this is actually going to be streamlined. So, okay, usually streamlined is only like 20 minutes, but we went about 4 times that. Cool. But anyways, female-led comic book movies, the good, the bad, the ugly. In the comment section below, let me know if you agree with any of my thoughts. If there's some movies that I missed, which are quite a few. Is there anything that I missed in particular when it comes to the topics that I addressed? Did you agree with any of the topics as well? And just give me your general thoughts about female-led comic book movies. I didn't get into the ones that I wanted to see, but I'll probably make a video about female comic books that I wanted to actually see come to the theaters or something like that. But anyways, we should hit that like, share, subscribe, and a notification button to get the best of what we got going on this channel. And we'll definitely catch you guys later.